Okay, so we are starting book 2 of the Odyssey, and we thought we would read it on here just in case anybody else wanted to read along with us, because we are in quarantine now, and so we are staying home, getting over COVID. So we have Caleb over here. He doesn't want to be on the video, but he's here, and he's gonna answer questions periodically. And so if you want to follow along with us, we are reading the W.H.D. Rouse translation. And this is what ours looks like, but if you are in our ancient literature class, you have a PDF version in the Dropbox of this translation. So Caleb, why does it need to be translated?
Because for some reason we speak English instead of Greek.
We speak English instead of Greek for some reason.
Yeah.
Yeah? Think that is a sad deal? Yeah. Well, maybe you'll speak Greek someday. But right now we speak English, so we have to have an English translation. So we're on book 2, and the title of book 2 is How the Council Met in the Marketplace of Ithaca and What Came of It. So Caleb, what happened in book 1?
Stuff and things.
What was going on?
Athena came to Telemachus, Odysseus' son's house, and told Telemachus to search for news of his father.
Okay, so Telemachus is Odysseus' son, and Athena came disguised, right? As an old family friend, and said, hey, you better go track down some news about your father, because you don't have to just accept things the way they are. Okay, so book 2, the council is meeting in the marketplace of Ithaca, and what is going to come of it? Dawn came, showing her rosy fingers through the early mists, and Telemachus leapt out of bed. He dressed himself, slung a sharp sword over his shoulder, strapped a stout pair of boots on his lissom feet, and came forth from his chamber like a young god. He called the criers at once and told them to use their good lungs in summoning the people to the council. The criers did their part, and the people came. As soon as they were assembled, he went down to the council himself, with a strong spear in his hand and a couple of dogs for company, which danced around him as he walked. He was full of enchanting grace, and the people stared at him in admiration. Not for nothing, Athena was his friend. He took his seat in his father's place, and the reverend seniors made room. The first speaker was Aegyptius. I think that's how you say it? Aegyptius?
I have no idea.
A great gentleman, bent with age and full of ripe wisdom. He also had lost a son, who had sailed with Prince Odysseus in the fleet to Ilias. Antiphos the lancer and the savage Cyclop had killed him in the cave. In fact, he was the monster's last supper. 3 other sons the old man had. One of them, Arinomus, was among the wooers, and 2 kept their father's farms. But he could not forget the other, whom he mourned unceasingly, and now there were tears in his eyes for his son's sake as he began to speak. Listen to me, men of Ithaca, for I have something to say to you. There has been no session of our council since the time when Prince Odysseus sailed with the fleet. And now who has summoned us? It is a young man. Is it a young man or one of the elders? Was it some private need that moved him? Or has he news of some threatening raid and now wishes to report what he was the first to hear? Or is there some other public matter which he wishes to bring before us? He has done well, I think, and deserves our thanks. I pray Zeus may grant him that blessing which his heart desires." These words seemed a good omen to Telemachus and encouraged him. He made no delay, for he was eager to speak. So he stood up before the council. The speaker's staff was put in his hand by Pisanor, the public crier. Then Telemachus first addressed himself to the old counselor. "The man you call for is not far away, reverend sir, who summoned the people together. As you shall soon know, I am that man, and I am in great trouble of my own. There is no news of a threatening raid to report. I have no advantage of you there, and there is no other public matter which I wish to bring before you. This is my own private need, trouble which has fallen upon my house. 2 troubles, indeed. First, I have lost a good father, who once was king over you that are present here, and he was like a kind father to you. And now again there is something much worse, which I tell you will soon utterly tear to pieces my whole house and destroy my whole living. My mother is besieged by those who would marry her against her will, own sons to those men who are chief among you here. They will not go near her father's house and lay a formal proposal before Icarius. The thought makes them shiver, for then he might collect the bridal gifts for his daughter and give her to the man of his choice, the one he likes best. No, it is our house they visit regularly, every day, kill our cattle and sheep and fat goats, hold high revel, and drink my sparkling wine, quite reckless. That is the way it all goes, for there is no man at the head, no one like Odysseus to drive this curse from the house. You see, we are not able to drive it away ourselves. Sorry champions we shall prove if we try. We have little skill for the combat. Indeed, I would defend myself if I had the strength. What they have done is quite intolerable. There is no decent excuse for the ruin they have made of my house. You ought to be ashamed in your own hearts. You ought to think what others will say about it, our neighbors who live all around us. You should fear the wrath of the gods who may be provoked by such wickedness to turn upon you. I appeal to Olympian Zeus and Themis, who dissolves the parliament of men and summons them. Let me be, my friends, leave me alone, to be worn out by my bitter sorrow, unless I must suppose that my father Odysseus, my good father, was a cruel man and ill-treated the nation, and that is why you are cruel and ill-treating me, out of revenge. Why you encourage these men. I should like it better if you would eat up my treasures and my flocks. If you would eat them up, perhaps there might be some redress. Then we might go round the town, dunning you, imploring, demanding our goods again, till you should give them all back. But now I am helpless. All I can do is suffer the humiliation which you heap upon me." He spoke angrily, and now he dropped down the staff on the ground and burst into tears. All the people were sorry for him, and they sat silent. Not one had the heart to say an unkind word in reply. Only Antinous answered and said, "You are a boaster, Telemachus, and you don't know how to keep your temper. What a speech! Cry shame on us? Fasten the blame on us? That's what you want to do? Blame us indeed? Your own mother is at fault. You cannot find fault with us for paying court to your mother. She is a clever piece indeed. It's been 3 years already, and the 4th will soon go by since she has been deluding the wits of the whole nation. Hopes for all, promises for every man by special messenger, and What she means is something quite different. Here is the latest trick which came out of her meditations. She set up a great warp on her loom in the mansion and wove away fine work and wide across. This is what she told us. Young men who seek my hand, now that Odysseus is dead, I know you are in a hurry for marriage, but wait until I finish this cloth. For I don't want to waste all the thread that I have spun. It is a shroud for my lord Laertes, against the time when all destroying fate shall carry him away in dolorous death. I should not like the women of our nation to cry scandal if he should lie without a winding sheet when he has great possessions. That is what she said, and we swallowed our pride and consented, and there she was all day long, working away at the great web. But at night she used to unravel it by torchlight. So for 3 years she deluded the whole nation, and they believed her. But the seasons passed on, and the 4th year began, and a time came when one of her women told us, one who knew the secret, we caught her unraveling that fine web. So she had to finish it because she must, not because she wanted to. So Caleb, what was she doing? She said, okay, I'll marry somebody, but what?
But after I do this.
After I finish weaving this shroud for Laertes.
Yeah.
And then what did she do?
She unraveled it.
She would weave on it all day, and then at night she would undo it. So how long did it take them to kind of figure out what was going on?
3 years.
3 years. Okay. And the only reason they figured it out was one of her maids told somebody. As for you, this is the answer of those who pay court to your mother, a plain answer to you and all to the nations. Send your mother out of the house. Tell her to marry whichever her father says, whichever she likes herself. But if she will go on and on teasing the young men of our nation, with her head full of pride to think how Athena has been generous to her beyond all others, given her skill in beautiful work and good intelligence and cleverness such as never was heard of, even in old stories, those women of our nation who lived long ago with their lovely hair, Tyro and Alcmene and Mycenae, with her fine coronals, not one of them had the clever wits of Penelope. But this clever turn was a wicked trick. To put it plainly, we will go on eating up your living and substance just so long as God allows her to keep the mind she has now. She is making a great name for herself, but for you, goodbye to a great fortune. As for us, we will not go to our lands or anywhere else before she marries whoever may please her best out of the nation. The boy stood up to him and said, Antinous, it is impossible for me to turn out of doors the mother who bore me and brought me up. My father is somewhere in the world, alive or dead. And it is a hard thing for me to pay back all that dowry to Icarios if I send away my mother of my own will. Her father will be bad enough, but heaven will send me worse, for my mother will call down the dread avengers upon me if she leaves home, and men will reproach me, so I will never say that word. And if my own mind may have any fear of such a reproach, go out of my house, get your dinners elsewhere, eat your own food, turn by turn, in your own houses. But if you think it meet and right to consume one man's goods without paying, carve away. I will appeal to the everlasting gods and see whether Zeus may not one day grant me vengeance. There would be no ransom then. In that house you should perish. So spoke Telemachus, and Zeus, whose eye can see what is far off, sent him a pair of eagles flying from the lofty mountain peak, and they flew down the wind a while side by side, soaring on wide-stretched sails. But when they came right over the place of debate, they took a turn round. Then hovering with quick beating wings, they stared down on the heads of all, with death in their eyes, and tearing at their cheeks and necks with their talons, away they darted to the east across the houses of the town. The people were amazed when they saw this sight with their own eyes, and they pondered in their hearts what was to come of it. Then up and spoke a noble old man, Halitherses, Masteritis. But there was no man of his day who came near him in knowledge of birds or in telling what omens meant, and he spoke to them in this fashion out of an honest heart. Hear me now, men of Ithaca, for I have something to say. I speak especially to those who would wed, for upon them a great woe is rolling. Odysseus will not long keep away from his friends, but I think he is already near, planting the seed of death and destruction for all these men. Trouble there will be for many others of us who live in the island of Ithaca. But let us consider in good time how we can stop these men, or let them stop themselves. Indeed, the sooner the better. I am no novice in prophecy. That is something I understand. As for that man, I declare that all has been fulfilled as I told him. When our people embarked for Ilios, and with them went Odysseus, the man who is ready for anything and everything, I said he would have many troubles and lose all his companions, and after 20 long years unknown he would come home again. And see now, all is being fulfilled. Then another man got up, Arimachus, and he said, Off with you, old man, go home and prophesy to your children, or they may come to grief sometime. In this matter, I am a better prophet than you are. Any number of birds are flying about under the sun, and not all of them are birds of omen. At any rate, Odysseus is dead, far away from this place, and I wish you had died with him. Then you would not be here making long speeches as God's mouthpiece. You would not unleash this angry Telemachus. No doubt you expect to find something from him when you get home, if he doesn't forget it. But I tell you this, I will do it too. He is a young man, and you are full of antediluvian wisdom. But if you cajole him and inflame his passions, he shall be the first to suffer. As for you, sir, there will be damages which you will be sorry to pay. Heavy burden shall be yours. For Telemachus, this is my advice, which I give before you all. Let him tell his mother to go home to her father's house, and they will arrange a marriage and collect the bridal gifts, plenty of them, as many as there ought to be for a beloved daughter. For I do not think the young men will cease their importunate wooing until that is done, since we fear no one in any case, not Telemachus, certainly, for all his flood of words, and we care nothing for your prognostications. Respected sir, they will come to nothing, and only make you more of a nuisance than you were. Yes, his wealth shall be wasted and consumed, and there shall be no retribution, as long as that woman keeps putting off her wedding and wasting our time. Here we are, waiting day after day, rivals for a great prize. Never look at another woman when you would expect each man to go a-wooing for himself. But Telemachus still kept his wits about him, and he replied, Eurymachus, and all you other gentlemen who pay court to my mother, I make no more appeal to you. I have no more to say, for now the gods know and all the nation. But I beg you to lend me a swift ship and 20 men to carry me there and back, for I am going to Sparta and sandy Pylos to find out about my father and why he is so long away. Perhaps someone may tell me, or I may hear some rumor that God will send, which is often the best way for people to get news. Then if I hear that my father is alive and on his way back, for all my wearing and tearing, I can bear up another year. But if I hear he is dead and no longer in the world, I will come back to my own house and build him a barrow, and do the funeral honors in handsome style, as I ought, and give away my mother to another husband." He said his say and sat down, and then rose up Mentor, friend and comrade of the excellent Odysseus, to whom Odysseus had entrusted his whole house when he sailed away. They were to obey the old man, and he was to keep all safe. This was what he said, and very good sense it was. "Listen to me, men of Ithaca, and hear what I have to say. Let no man henceforth take the trouble to be kind and gentle, no sceptred prince. Let none try to be fair and right, but let him be always harsh and do what he ought not to do, since no one remembers the noble Odysseus, not one out of all the people he ruled, like a kind father. I do not grudge at the proud men who pay their court. If they act with violence in the mischievous bawdry of their minds, they stake their own heads when they devour the house of Odysseus with violence, and think he will never come back. But now it is you, the others, who make me ashamed. How you all sit mum, when you ought to denounce them and hold back a few young men when they are many." Leocritus Enoridus answered him, "Mentor, you mischief maker, you madman, what a thing to say! Drive them on to stop us. One against many is done, a many's too many for one, in fight for a supper. Why, even Odysseus himself, if he came back to Ithaca and found a sturdy company feasting in his house, the thought of driving them out of the hall, his wife, would have little satisfaction, however much she may have missed him. But then and there he would die an ugly death, if he's one against many. What you say is all wrong. Come now, men, make yourselves scarce. Away to your lands, every one. As for this fellow, Mentor, shall help him with his voyage, and Halitherses, since we have been friends of the family for ages. But I think he will have to sit here a good long time and wait for his news in Ithaca. He will never bring off that voyage." So, what does Telemachus want to do? What does he want them to give him? What does he want them to give him? A ship and 20 men to go on his journey to find out about his father. And these guys, mostly, they're just arguing back and forth about whether they're doing the right thing or not, right? With these words, he broke up the assembly forthwith, and they all made themselves scarce and went each to his own house, and the pretenders went back to the house of Odysseus. But Telemachus went by himself to the seashore, and there he washed his hands in the grey brine and offered a prayer to Athena. "Hear me, thou who yesterday didst come a god into our house, who didst bid me to take a ship over the misty sea and inquire if my father is coming home, and why he is so long away. All this the people prevent, but most of all my mother's wooers, men full of wicked pride." Such was his prayer, and Athena came to his side like Mentor in shape and voice, and she spoke to him, and the words were plain and pointed. "You will not lack either courage or sense in the future, Telemachus, for we can see now that there is a drop in you of your father's fine spirit. What a man he was to make good both deed and word. I tell you, your journey shall not be hindered or stopped. But if you are not his son and Penelope's, then I do not expect you to succeed in what you wish to do. Few sons, let me tell you, are like their fathers. Most are worse, and few are better. But since you will lack neither courage nor sense in the future, and since the mind of Odysseus has not wholly failed in you, there is hope for the future, and I tell you that you will succeed. Think no more now of the plots and plans of those who woo your mother, for there is neither sense nor justice in them. They know nothing of the death and destruction which is near them, so that in one day they shall all perish. But the journey which you desire shall not be long delayed, when you have with you such an old friend as your father as I am. For I will provide a swift ship, and go with you myself. You must just go home and mingle with the company, and get provisions ready, and put them all up in vessels, wine in jars, and barley meal, which is the marrow of men, and strong skins. And I will go at once and collect volunteers among the people, and there are many ships in the island of Ithaca, both new and old. I will look round and find you the best, and we will make all ready and launch her upon the broad sea. So who's helping him now? Athena. She's going to go find a ship and get the people to come help him. How's she going to do that?
With his power.
Okay. So Athena, daughter of Zeus and Telemachus, did not stay long after he heard what the goddess said. He set out for the house with a heavy heart, and he found the proud pretenders there, skinning goats and singeing fat pigs in the courtyard. And Tanus laughed and made straight for Telemachus, and grasped his hand and called him by name and said, "You are a boaster, Telemachus, and you don't know how to keep your temper. Do not trouble your head about the plots and plans. Just go on eating and drinking as usual. Our people will manage all you want, I am sure. A ship and the best crew to be found. They will give you a quick passage to sandy Pylos if you want to hear news of your father." Telemachus pulled his hand from the hand of Antinous and said, "Antinous, with your friends riding all around, it's impossible to enjoy a meal in peace and quiet. Is it not enough, men, that you have been carving up a good portion of my possessions all this time while I was still a boy? But now you see I am grown up, and I hear everyone is talking about it, so I find things out. Now I feel my own strength, and I mean to do my best to bring retribution upon you when I come back from Pylos, or now in this country. I mean to go, and no one shall prevent me, even if I must go as a passenger, since I am not to have my own ship and crew. I suppose that suited you better." Where were we at?